You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla, Kallander, and Andrew Yaggie. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to the It's Real podcast. I am Kayla Kallander, and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yaggie, and I'm a real estate agent. Kayla, great to see you as always.
I couldn't remember what episode it was.
34, Kayla.
I was like, how many have I uploaded on Spotify in my head? Of course you remember.
Oh, it's just at the top of the screen too, and so.
Oh, well, I don't see that. Well,
you
good
don't.
to know.
Interesting. Huh.
How are you, Andy?
Yeah, well, I'm doing really, really good. It's really nice to have warm weather and actually, starting to have a lot more conversations, with people about buying and selling. I think, spring isn't quite in the air, but spring isn't too far off.
It's not. You can really feel it. I think even just 30 degrees feels amazing when you had 30 below.
Right.
And it's true. I think people are getting out more, looking at homes. They just what it's like when it hits 50 degrees around here. It's like everybody and their dogs literally are out. And I think that allows people to kind of feel more serious about buying. They want to get out and move and see what's out there.
I would normally ask you, Kayla, what you've been up to and how much activity you're seeing, but I was on social media the other day and I caught Kayla's car convo and saw that there were 6 new loan applications received over the weekend.
Yeah.
Buyers are doing the work to talk to an expert.
Yeah, it's funny, I see apps come in, throughout the week, but it's not common as much on a weekend. I feel like people are doing their things, weddings, traveling, and I'm seeing my email pop up constantly with new apps. Some people I've never talked to, some I knew might be coming. So 6 over a weekend over, a 48-hour period, that's significant in my opinion for the way that, we lenders are experiencing apps coming in. I think some lenders didn't even see 6 apps in a month last year. So it's really picked up. And a lot of people think that, hey, I'm hearing the noise. I'm hearing about rates. I'm hearing this. I just need to know, what is my situation? What does that look like? So they're doing the work. Good for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and some of them you talk about them being gone for the weekend, going to weddings or other events, probably in the car ride on the way home, kind of thinking hey, you know what do we want to do? We want to get into that house. So, hey, I'm going to get my phone out and I'm going to put an app in with Kayla.
Yeah, I think they're serious. It's like, when I tell people, hey, your approval letter is good for 4 months and you don't have to go find a house if you're approved. It's just setting you up for success. I think people are like, oh, okay, well then I'll take that next step. So yeah, I mean, they got it done. And I think every single one that came in was approved. So whether they want to buy or not, it's up to them. So,
well, I can tell you that people are getting more serious. It still does get frustrating once in a while, Kayla, and I'm sure for you as well. But I've had several people reach out this week where, hey, I want to go look at these houses, or hey, we're buying from out of state and this looks like a great area. Let's go see it. And one individual told me, I've got apps out with 4 lenders right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, and so what's your goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And not to mention they were all, kind of larger national lenders. And this happens to be a very, very rural property, which, could have, there could be some issues. I just had some buyers recently that were working with a large national bank. And I worked really hard to kind of persuade them to like, hey, this type of property, which has a lot of issues, it's a gorgeous property and has potential. And I know you're going to do great things with it, but it has issues. Let's find someone local, let's find a local plan. And we had to, after the fact, come and find that local plan.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, it's, you hit it last time we spoke. It's like clients don't really know what to ask besides what's the rate?
How much? What's it going to cost you?
Yeah, and it's so people are like, I'm just going to put in an app with all these banks and see what happens. But in reality, you're exactly right in this scenario. It's like you might want to work with someone local. You may want to work with someone that has connections, that might know someone that maybe can have a repair or can guide you on the options available. If it's a rural property, USDA. But I think you're just spot on that people don't know what to ask, and you can't blame them. It's because that's all you hear is rate, rate, rate.
Right.
So
Well, and same with agents too, because this other individual, we had set up a showing, and then I had another agent reach out and say, "Oh, I'm going to work with them after all because they were more comfortable working with me, and not a dual agency situation, which I can appreciate that. I've got the property listed, but this other individual is also a part-time agent who doesn't do a lot of production, so."
ah,
Um, I and so I wish him well and on with life. But I, kind of like one of the stats that I cited a couple of episodes ago, like half of the agents out there control
49%.
literally nothing, 0 to 1 property out there. And so
Mhm.
you can't tell me that you're getting good and adequate advice and representation from agents that aren't out there doing it every day. And the same with lenders, Kayla. You talk about, most lenders have, maybe seen 6 apps, in a month would be a good month. And you've
Yeah.
seen 6 in a weekend. That speaks volumes.
Well, and I think it's like with anything, experience matters. It does, and not just experience over years, but experience day to day. Because you and I both know this industry changes. I mean, think of all the things that we've heard in the last 2 years, even in this industry. Like, there's 2-1 buy downs. Now you should be, paying over asking. Now you're getting seller concessions, and there's so many different unique scenarios. The more that you and I do something, the more that we know the best options and how to get strategic. And these part-time players really are not experienced to that. No fault to them, but
Mhm.
maybe not the best for the client.
Yeah.
So
Yep, absolutely. Kayla, I've got to thank you as well for the topic that we covered last time, the refinance piece, which honestly I wasn't terribly excited about because it's like, oh man, rates are still pretty high. Kayla, we don't need to talk refi, but actually it was well received. I was at church just this past week, and I had 2 different conversations with people about our podcast and about just the fact that, hey, this was really really interesting information, and it was beneficial. Hey, I've never done a refi before. I didn't even know it was an option or existed.
oh,
Or
wow.
hey, we're really grateful for you know keeping up to date with what the market's doing because real estate's really interesting to us.
That's awesome because it's so easy for us to assume people know, but people just don't. And I think the common theme is rates are dropping, rates are dropping. And to someone at a 5% rate, maybe they don't know what that's dropping to. Rates are between, 6.5 and 7 right now nationally. But what does that mean to someone in a VA loan? What does that mean to someone
Mhm.
that got down payment assistance that you have to pay a portion back? So it's just having the conversations, and it's starting to become the new like buzzwords. It's like refinance rates drop. Well, as I told you earlier, I'm having a lot of clients reach out that just bought, and rates maybe have dropped a quarter. It doesn't make sense to refinance, especially if they're going to drop again. So I think just having a lender stay on top of it, and and as a consumer, I always tell people go to mortgagenewsdaily.com and just keep an eye out there. It's a national average, but it's something to see.
Absolutely.
To watch.
Speaking of rates, Kayla, what are rates doing this week?
Up a little bit. So 6.85, I think, is where they started. We're at 6.92. This is again national average. I'm locking people below this. Every lender's different. There's times where we're much lower, or that we're higher, but in general, 6.92. But look at a 15-year, not a huge swing to a 15-year. And then yeah, you'll see there's some other options, FHA, VA. So they're up a little bit. In general, North Dakota housing, which I talk about a lot, even though I'm in North Dakota, you're in Minnesota, we're seeing 5 and 5.25 for the lowest option. That's, I mean, we could quite literally see 4.99 at some point. You never know. Again, that's a government program. That first top one, you have to make a certain dollar, amount, and so there's certain requirements for each program. But you can see the highest is 7.65. That would be like for a repeat buyer
Sure,
getting down payment assistance. So
sure.
so there's a lot of options, but I mean, they're moving in the right direction. It's not a linear process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was visiting. I was out doing a showing the other night and visiting with a friend of mine who's looking to buy. And it's like, hey, this is kind of where I'm at. This is where I'm at budget and payment wise. And I just asked her how she felt about it because she's kept in touch with her lender, which is great. She said, not bad, but the rate still. And I want to say it was like 6.1. which, wasn't bad. Not at all. But it's still weighing on people. And I think, still just people are squeezed out there just with, the cost of living and everything else.
Well, it's funny. I pull credit for everybody, and I can't help but laugh a little bit because I see what people are paying in car payments, and I see they're paying 2 grand a month in car payments, and the 6.1 rate will bother them, but the 10% rate on their car won't. Yes, it's a smaller amount usually, but I'm seeing people hundreds of thousands of dollars on their car loans. So I think a good um, plan of action for anyone listening is take a look at your financials as a whole and see what are you paying for interest rates elsewhere, credit cards, student loans, cars. What can I've got a client right now that wants to just, hey, we're going to actually get a different vehicle to free up some cash flow. We don't need this. We want the house. So I would encourage people to take a big picture look at everything.
Mhm. Absolutely. Speaking of taking a look, Kayla, more people are taking a look and are in the market, for homes, and, are leaving the sidelines and
Mhm.
positioning themselves for success and to reach their goals in the new year. And with that, we've seen inventory up a little bit more, 20,
Yeah.
maybe 30% in some areas. I would even dare to say, but still, there aren't enough homes out there for people who are looking to buy. And so the other day I was kind of scrolling through Facebook in the afternoon, and I came across this post from our friends at Mission Homes in Fargo, who is a
Mhm.
newer home builder, and just talking about why buy a new home instead of an existing home. So many buyers are depleting their savings account to cover their down payment and closing costs. And then,
Mhm.
hey, what happens if they have a major repair in the first couple of years owning their new home? It would put them in a tight spot versus buying something new, having those warranties, that new construction warranty. Um, yeah, and then even, if you are ready to sell that new construction home, everything's going to be relatively new, making your home very appealing to buyers. And so just kind of a list here showing, if you've got to replace your central AC unit, $5,500, Kayla. A
Yeah.
furnace, $4,000 to $5,000, dishwasher, 500, refrigerator, 1,500. Hopefully you don't have one of the dreaded Samsung refrigerators like I have where the ice maker doesn't work.
I
Uh,
don't, but my ice
the
maker doesn't work well.
What's that?
Said I don't have a Samsung, but I hate my ice maker in my fridge. So glad we're on the same page.
Anyway, we've got, a lot of different things. A roof is
Yeah.
a huge one. And so you look at that. And so it does beg the question, why not look at a new build
Mhm.
versus an existing home?
I think it's, we talk about rates and how people just have this assumption like, oh, I can't afford a house if I have student loans, or rates are too high to get the payment I want. But it's the same thing, I think, with new construction. People think I'm a first time buyer or even a repeat. There's no way I can afford new construction, way too expensive. But when you think of it like that, I love that you found that because what Mission shared was that, if you're buying an existing home, look at all those costs that could occur. Yes, you get an inspection up front. But Andy, I had a client that closed on a home recently, and she had issues the next day that she was in the home. She had some flooding, she had issues with her microwave, and she had issues with her washer and dryer.
Oh,
And
really?
this person is a first-time home buyer, getting assistance. I mean, that does she have the funds? I don't know, but those are things that truthfully, you own the home. It is now your responsibility. Even if it passed inspection, things happen.
Yep.
So I love that because new construction is an option that everyone, if interested, should look into just to see what it looks like. Half of my files right now are new construction
Really?
because, yeah, for a lot of reasons. And, in Fargo, there's a lot more options to build, but we're finding so many incentives to build new. One being that they're getting a seller credit or concession or funds off their closing costs. There's usually a 1 or 2 year warranty. There are so many options and you can customize it. You don't have to build this grandiose, huge home, but you can, scale it back and you can choose without having to just wait for something to come on the market.
Yeah, I like that. And what I don't like, Kayla, is I look at how many new build homes are available, and all of the different builders that are building in Fargo, Horace, West Fargo, the surrounding areas. And then I come down to Fergus Falls where I'm at, and we have no builders building anything. The biggest challenge we're facing is there aren't any lots that are ready to go. And
Uh,
so there are, luckily it's starting to get more attention. In fact, I've been working even with some developers on, hey, what can we get going? Because it's a huge issue when it comes to economic growth, especially as it
mhm.
pertains to workforce housing. Because again, we're trying to attract people down here. We've got some great manufacturers, great employers, but nowhere for people to live. And so that's getting to be
Okay.
a huge issue, not just here, but in a lot of out outlying areas. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a problem. Nonetheless, if you're looking for something new construction, and I would tell people even in our area, like there are ways we can get things done. There
Mhm.
are options available just because no one is building homes in mass or building an appreciable amount of
Right.
spec homes. I'm working with a developer and have been representing them on some higher end twin homes of 55 plus
Mhm.
development. I'm just in talks with another developer in kind of some lakes area, new housing development, and kind of exploring and trying to wrap our heads around that. And so there are options out there. It's just in some of the outlying areas, it's going to be a little bit more challenged than living in the metro like you, Kayla.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. And sometimes I might even be blind to that because, you know, knowing your area, clients don't have that option. But as you're saying, it is still worth looking into. You can still get it done. It just might not be as easily accessible, perhaps in Fargo, you think? It's just
Hmm.
maybe it's a little more work.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of clients pursue new construction in your area, Andy, or are they
I
always
Not really, because those that are pursuing new construction in our area, they're building privately. They're
yeah,
finding their builder and they're
yeah.
doing it on their own. And so yeah, I know several individuals who are doing some new construction, but it's more private. And that's where I think there are some real opportunities down here that again I'm exploring personally, with some other investors because in our area no one's doing anything.
Well, and that's just it. It's like you can have the option, but when it's difficult to come by, then it's like, what do you do? But
Mhm.
in our area in Fargo, we're seeing people shop at multiple builders. Like we talked about how your client shopped multiple lenders and realtors. They do the same in Fargo. They'll go visit 4 or 5 different builders, and I think by the time they're done with one, they're just like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot," because it's not just here's a price, it's very much customizable, so you have
Yep.
to be willing to take the time and understand that you need to be a little patient.
I had one of my agents showing some homes in the Fargo area over the weekend, and it was all around a certain development and the same builder for all three of the homes they wanted to look at. They were all pretty much the same model,
Yeah.
just slightly different.
Mhm.
They went and looked at them, and they did find one that was a good fit. But yeah, it's good to have options and location and the like too.
Well, and there's also, I think about all the great things. There's also the tax abatement that comes with it. So you are able to save, $150, $170 a month too. So people are really open to that. A lot of individuals are in jobs that they're getting raises every year. So they know in 2 years they might be making more. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to go forward with this. I'm going to get a new construction tax abatement. Again, it's just where you get a reduction in your annual taxes.
Yeah.
But for 2 years, you get a lower payment. So something else to kind of think about.
And we do have some great programs. Like in Otter Tail County have the big build tax credit, which generally is 5,000 from the county and 5,000 from participating cities. Basically in tax abatement, which is a really really great program for those that are building.
Yeah.
And Kayla, there are a lot of perks to building too. I mean, we talked about a few of them. We talked about, I mean, the fact you mentioned the customization piece, which for some people can be overwhelming. And
Yeah.
some people say, building a house together, I've got a brother, him and his wife building a new one together. And a lot of people joke about, man, if you can survive, building a new home, you can survive anything, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
But of course, having something brand new that is your own and,
Yeah.
and everything that you've envisioned, the energy efficiency piece, Kayla. I was
Mhm.
looking at this older home the other day, and it still had a boiler that burned fuel oil.
Hmm.
And boy, you get into some of these new properties, like some of the higher end twin homes I've been representing the developer on, where they have a high end heat pump, a forced air furnace, an all in one gas boiler with two different zones for floor heat and unlimited domestic hot water. I mean, you look at the efficiency of
Yeah.
that dimension, how it's built, and the insulation, the R value, the materials.
Yeah.
The low maintenance piece, that's one of the biggest problems I think we run into when we're looking around. And even from a lending standpoint, Kayla, when we're looking at homes that have, old siding, old wood, or kind of a fiberboard siding that are peeling, there are implications for lending. Obviously, when we're looking today, a lot of people using LP Smart siding, or on the economical end, vinyl siding or a steel siding. I mean, the maintenance is going to be a
Yeah.
lot less.
And that can
And
be an issue for financing. If you've got peeling paint, I've got one that came in today. There's issues. So now we go back and the seller and buyer have to decide who's going to pay that, who's going to cover these repairs before we give them the loan. So that can be an issue too.
Yeah. You also talked about the buyer incentive pieces. And yeah, I think that's a huge thing too, where I see so many of the builders, especially in Fargo, as I'm getting emails from them talking about the concessions that they're offering.
Yeah.
And even, some of the builders offering agents additional commission, just because I don't think we have a major, no one's majorly overbuilt, but
Yeah.
obviously there's inventory out there. The home builders want to move, and they have considerable carrying costs. I was looking online, and there are still, of course, a lot of individuals that preach doom and gloom, Kayla. And looking around, there was a number of developers in some larger metro areas, like they were looking outside the Dallas metro area in a nearby town, and all of these new builds and nobody buying them. So I think there probably are some builders in some areas that are getting in trouble, but I don't think that's the case around here.
No, and I think smaller towns around here, I mean, Fargo's not that big, you know what I mean? But people talk, they know. I mean, they do their due diligence and word travels fast. But around here, I feel like, people are they're humans building homes. There's going to be errors, there's going to be issues that come up or things missed. But when you've got warranties and you've got people coming out to your brand new home to fix anything. We built brand new and we had a 1 year warranty and we had some things come up. It's normal. And they would
Mhm.
come out. We built a heritage home. Heritage would come out, take care of it. And that's kind of the beauty too. Like if you bought existing, no one's going to come out and fix your home for you. So, I
Mhm.
mean, are homes perfect? No, but they'll strive to make sure it's right.
Right. Kayla, we've talked a lot about the pros of new construction, but there certainly are some cons as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I would love to talk about the cons. Yes. So, you're going to find that around here, there's going to be what's called special assessments in new areas. So a lot of times that's going to impact your payment. It's going to impact like higher cost. So higher costs for materials. You're going to be consuming more pieces to build a home that's going to cost more than say it did 2 years ago. So you're going to have a higher cost. You're going to have those special assessments in newer developments. I like the comment decision fatigue because that is like the story of my life. By the way, Andy, indecision is a decision, I've been told. When you're trying to, I can't pick out a phone case. When you're trying to pick out all these different things and find, do you want, I remember picking out outlet covers and I'm like, why do I have to pick out what outlet covers I want? I thought they were just plain and normal. So that gets to be overwhelming, but you've got a good team, usually anywhere that's going to walk you through that. New construction as well. You might not get the yard. You might not, you might have to pay for a lawn or, the next year for hydro seed. You might need to put up a fence. You might need to do landscaping. So there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily included that you might want to talk to your builder about as well.
Mhm.
Aside from that, new construction, I think one of the noise pieces, the comments is, I don't know when I'm going to close. And you hear these stories about builders pushing out the dates. Yes, that happens. But when you're working with a well oiled machine, a good builder, they're going to close pretty much on time.
Right.
So aside from that, if those are the things that you're hearing, it's very easily, it's easy to navigate these things. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, they can be cons.
I think the other piece too is, the higher cost that the article referenced a little bit, and that, dollar for dollar, you can hypothetically get, the same square footage for less money buying something pre-owned. But again, going back to kind of our piece from Mission Homes, where they talk about, what are the potential pitfalls you could run into. And I even look at our house since we've been in there in 2018, and it's coming up on 30 years old. I mean, there are quite a number of things that, we're having to repair and replace.
Yeah.
And it was inherent of home ownership, which at the end of the day, home ownership isn't for everyone. There are some people that, hey, maybe renting does make more sense. But increasingly, even in our area, Kayla, where I've got a lot of individuals who are, maybe people our age who have families that are growing and, maybe more that move up buyer, and also, kind of the younger or middle-aged executive, type of individual that, hey, we want something nice. We're willing and able to pay for quality. That's what we're really missing in our market, is more properties to kind of fill that niche. So
Right.
new construction could be something that you should consider.
Agreed. And I think too, to kind of leave everyone with a final thought, if rates do, I say if because you just don't know, but if rates do come down this year, you have to think about those people that own homes that are at the 2, 3, 4% rates. The rates coming down is also an incentive to sellers, because it's not going, when they sell a home, they're going to buy a home. But to kind of narrow that gap, in order for them to sell, rates come down, that allows more inventory for those looking to buy. So
Sure.
you never know what inventory could come out, but nonetheless, I would advise anyone that's thinking of new construction, have the conversation with the lender and a builder and your realtor and see what options are there.
Have the talk.
Have the talk.
Absolutely.
Walk the talk, all the things.
Well, Kayla, it's been awesome connecting. As always, thanks for visiting about new construction, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will.
We'll see you.
Bye.